Welcome to RV Lifestyle, the podcast. This is your honey badger here, giving it to you straight in the RV business as usual. And today we have a show packed with information. I'm going to go over a lot of things, including a couple of announcements, things that are going to reflect yourself on whether you're going to buy an RV in 2022 here at the end, or whether you're going to wait till 2023, or whether you're going to wait beyond 2023. So let me give you an experience that I've been having. And that is, my wife and I have decided that we're going to go full time. Meaning we're going to move into a fifth wheel on my mom's property for the time being, because even with a good paying job, a business that's doing better every day, we cannot afford to stay in California anymore. We're going to eat into our savings. In fact, I've got a good amount of money set aside. And in that good money set aside, we figured between what I'm making at my job, which is still really good money, and between what I'm making on the businesses, we'll drain our savings in a year with the rate of inflation. So, it's just time. I've been itching to get out of California because the tax bracket is going to increase to over 15%. Sales tax is going to go up next year. Gas tax is going up next year. They have a bill on the floor that they're not talking about that's going to tax food, tax gasoline, cars higher. I mean, there's just so many things going on here in California where in about a year, if you're middle or upper middle class, or if you're a business owner, you're going to question whether you want to be here or not. So we decided, because first of all, I've only been at the dream job for about 2.5 months. So it's going to be hard to rent anything. It's going to be hard to buy anything. So my mother offered us, she goes, well, why don't you guys, you're in the business, why don't you go do the whole moving and shopping experience, make it a part of your YouTube video, your YouTube channel, make it a part of your podcast, and tell people how it really is from the guy who actually is one of the voices of the RV business. I'm not the biggest voice. Maybe one day I'll be the biggest voice. So I said, screw it, let's do it. So my wife and I talked about it, and we agreed. We're going to break the lease. We're going to get the heck out of California at the end of November. So we went shopping for a fifth wheel. And I had a budget. My budget that I drew in my line in the sand was going to be 40 grand. I'm like, a 40 grand fifth wheel will buy me something between a 2015 and a 2017. I know the business. Cosmetically, we really didn't care because we're going to make it our own anyway. It keeps the payment relatively low, around less than $450 a month. And at the end of the day, somebody else took the hit. And just me being in the business, it's like I didn't want to buy a new coach, because buying a new coach, I'm going to give you guys this piece of advice. Buying a new coach, you need minimum 10% down. And I'm not willing at this time to spend over 100 grand and spend $10,000 to $15,000 to put a down payment on a coach. And it surprised people. They were, it surprised a lot of guys that I know in the business, like, well, you really pound people for down payment whenever you're trying to get them to buy. And I said, yes, but there's a difference between them and me. I'm going to take a short-term loan and I'm going to pay it off in half the time. So I'm not going to put the down payment up front. I'm going to make it up in payments. Okay? And what that means, guys, is If it's a $450 payment a month, I'm going to pay closer to $600 to $800 a month on that to pay it off sooner. But it's probably not going to be for the first year or two. So here's the secret. The secret is, when I sat down and did the math, if I could buy a coach right around retail book or less, then what I would do is I'm going to sit and I'm going to make 2 years of minimum payments. And then after that, I'm just going to pay it off in big chunks. So I'm going to pay for it one way or the other. I'm going to make a down payment one way or the other. It's just a matter of when. The reason why I tell people up front is because a lot of people only make minimum payments. And you have to realize, when you're buying a $120,000, $140,000 fifth wheel, I always recommend putting 20 or 30% down. In fact, if I was going to go down and buy a new one, I would want to put 25 or 30% down, because I know what kind of position I'm going to be in if things go wrong. But I'm not buying new, I'm buying used, and I stuck to a structure of how much money I want to spend. Okay? So we went hunting. We did most of our research online, and let me tell you guys, this is how quickly I pull the trigger on something. See, and this is the difference in somebody that's experienced, 12 years in the business. I've done every single job you can think of in the RV business in 12 years, pardon me. And, you know, I do this completely unscripted. I know what I'm going to talk about, but I do this unscripted. 12 years of doing this, I've done everything from being a finance manager to being a general manager to being a mechanic to being a porter. I washed them, I cleaned them, I fixed them, I got them financed, I did walkthroughs, I sold them. Just about every single job you could do. I got them registered at the DMV. I dealt with the wholesale side as far as wholesaling units, buying units wholesale. So I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. So it's quicker for a guy like me to pull the trigger same day on something, as long as I have done my due diligence on what I'm looking for. So we narrowed it down to 5. We found 5 units, and we visited every one of them over the weekend. And it's interesting because my wife's perspective is a lot different than mine. Now, this is the difference, guys. I didn't go out by myself. So this is for the gentlemen out there, because I found that 75% of my audience is men, okay? Men, if you're married, do not go RV shopping without your wife. Period. Learn from the honey badger, the master. I am the master of my domain when it comes to the sales of RVs, and I am yet to find a man that bought an RV that the wife absolutely adored without her consultation. And let me tell you what happens. A lot of guys go out as what we call one-legger in the business, and they go out and they find like 3 units that they absolutely love and adore. And they bring the wife back, and the wife doesn't even care. She's on a mission to find something of her own. And 9 times out of 10, it's more money than what you want to spend. And because you did not do what I did with my wife, is told her, look, these are the 5 we're looking at. We're not going anything outside of that. But my wife is different. So what's interesting is I took my wife to 5 different coaches, and we didn't buy any of the 5. So even though I set the parameters of it all, we didn't buy any of the 5. She hated all of them. She liked bits and pieces of them. And sitting her down inside the coaches, we only filmed a few of them, but sitting inside of them, she had a perspective that was different than mine, okay? Her main concerns were, where are we going to store clothes? And a lot of bunkhouse fifth wheels don't have a lot of clothing storage for the kids. So we happened to be at this place, and she went off roaming while I was talking to the owner about other things, and she found this Cougar fifth wheel. And it's a model that hasn't been built in a long time. And he said, oh yeah, it's a 2019. I go, oh God, that's 50 grand. And I knew it had to be 50, 55 grand because I know the market right now. And I was on my phone while I was doing this and I looked at retail book. Retail book with no ads, which is what you need to go by whenever you're doing a shopping experience on a used coach. Ads don't matter. It was $48,000. So I was pretty close to what I thought it was going to go for. When the guy told me he was selling it for 34 grand, I about puked, like, okay, what the heck's wrong with this thing? So I went inside and I did all my checking. The guy plugged it in for me into a generator. And we went through it. And my wife all of a sudden started opening up cabinets, started opening up drawers, started opening up wardrobe area. And now all of a sudden we're bringing out the tape measure. And I know my wife's done and she found her coach. Now it's time for me to do my thing. My thing is trying to go through and find out what's wrong with it. Well, cosmetically, this thing was trashed. The outside looked fabulous, but the inside was absolutely garbage. Just lots of, you could tell somebody lived in this for about 6 months to a year with kids. But the functionality of it, everything worked. The auto level system, the 12-volt heater for the tanks. We're going to be moving to Oregon during the winter, so it had the Arctic package on it. It had everything we needed, and it all worked. So guys, I also realized that this guy didn't have a lot of financing options. He had 2 options and both banks came back at 8.5%. Guys, that's the norm, okay? Now, I know I can do better by going to a credit union, okay? So, and it's kind of interesting because even though the wholesale book on the coach was $38,000, and I'm buying back of wholesale book, they wanted huge money down, these 2 companies, to finance this thing. So it just goes to show you that, and I'm not talking about they want 10 grand, I'm talking about they want $6,000-$7,000. They want to be in it 80% loan to value. They're not very good banks, okay? But that's what the guy had to work with. And I can't blame him. He doesn't sell new product. He only sells used. And he's very successful at it. And he doesn't care where the money comes from. He just has those 2 banks set up just in case, right? So we went to a credit union. We went to Travis Credit Union here locally in Vacaville. Got 6.24% over a 10-year loan. Now that 10-year loan is going to be, I think the payment was like $420 is what my wife and I end up calculating it out to. And at the end of the day, it was perfect. 0 money out of pocket, $420 a month, and we're off and running. Now we did this in 2 days, 3 days. 3 days. Imagine that, from the time we made the decision to the time we signed on the dotted line, 3 days. Okay? Now, I'm not telling you you have to go and do that. What I'm telling you is that's how easy the process is once you are ready, willing, and able. It's that easy. And, at this moment in time, where we stand as an industry is we're going back to normal. The industry for so long was so screwy that a lot of people thought that was the new norm. We're going back to where it was. I knew, guys, eventually everything was going to go back to normal. Everything was going to get corrected. There is no way in God's green earth that, F-250 diesel trucks were going to be sold for 20 grand over sticker for the rest of eternity? There's no way housing was going to stay 20 to 30% inflated. There is no way that RVs were going to be sold at MSRP or for 10, 20 grand over retail book. We found something back of wholesale. And it just took, and what it took really was just making the commitment. And we were ready to make that commitment. If you look at my living room right now, if you look at what we did yesterday, we took a bunch of stuff to donation. We're making very difficult decisions. We're going to downsize our life. And I'm going to put it on camera. I'm going to put it on the bloody YouTube channel, HBRV Lifestyle. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It gives us a freedom. So this, and I'm getting asked a lot by friends, why am I doing this? Well, for those of you that are fans, have been fans of mine for a while, if you're a fan of my YouTube channel, if you're a fan of my previous podcast, if you were a client of mine, if I've worked with you, you know that I'm adaptable. I see the writing on the wall here in California, and I see the writing in the wall for the next year or two in the business I'm in. I know next year, no matter if I go sell them at a dealership, go be a manager at a dealership, or stick to what I'm doing right now, it's going to be a horrible year. And the reason why is because right now in this environment, it is a buyer's market. And I remember the first buyer's market I was in, I made about 45% less than I normally did in a okay year. Not a good year, not a great year, an okay year. An okay for year for me is about 120 grand a year, about 10 grand a month before taxes. So I'm going to assume it's going to be somewhere around 80 to 85 grand next year. I'm probably going to take during a good year, I make 200. During an incredible year, I make 350, 400. Those are huge numbers. Now, after taxes and insurance and all the other stuff, it's not that much money. Okay? Everybody forgets that. So how do you save money? How do you get to the next level where you save money? Well, the next level is being adaptable. If we owned a home right now in this environment in California, we'd be screwed. And the reason why we would be screwed is because housing prices are dropping, interest rates are rising. We'd be stuck here. And we would probably, in a year, drain through our savings, maybe less, just to pay the mortgage. Because the market's not there right now. It's winter. The market isn't there. Everybody's waiting to see what the election results are. Then we're going to fight Christmas and fight Santa Claus. Then we're going to fight tax season. And then March, it'll pick up. That's the norm of the RV business. But this year, through this year, it is going to be a buyer's market. And there just isn't enough of you out there willing to, we'll put quotation marks, take a risk, even though you have the ability, even though you have the money, even though you have solid jobs, even though everything's good, you are unwilling to go and buy right now. You guys are waiting till spring, a lot of you. So you're probably right. The buyer's market's probably going to extend through spring. But it's only going to be on 2022 year model stuff. This is what I want you guys to realize. And this is something I was talking about to a customer at a lot last week. they recognized me, and they asked me, they said, hey man, why do you keep saying that we should buy now? I mean, we want to wait. We're not going to be able to use it until probably March, April, May. And I go, there's plenty of fall and winter camping to do, guys, but let me tell you why I would do it now. And I said, because let's just say this unit is here in 6 months. He goes, yeah. The worst thing for a trailer or a fifth wheel or a motorhome is to sit on a dealer lot. And then just imagine if you have snow in your area or you have bad weather in your area. If that 2022 is still on the lot after 6 months of being in the snow, the rain, the cold weather, just imagine that. I mean, is it going to be bad? No, but it's the worst thing in the world for an RV to sit. It doesn't show well. You know, and realize, yeah, oh, I might get a better deal if it's 6 months older. Sure. But remember, interest rates are not going down. In a week, interest rates will go up 0.75%. I will say one thing, at least the industry on the wholesale side, on the factory side, is stabilized. We're not getting big price increases, you know, and for the most part, things have finally stabilized. And that's a good thing. But again, at the end of the day, guys, let me put it this way. If everybody just stops buying everything, there's going to be a lot of jobs lost. That's the truth. Okay? We don't have to go buy houses. But I'm not referring to people right now that are living paycheck to paycheck and don't know when their next meal is coming from. This message is for more the people that they want to do this, but they're scared because of the economy. They're scared because of the elections. They're scared for many reasons. I will tell you that at the end of the day, if this applies to you, there's nothing to be scared of. We're correcting. And you're going to get in at pricing and deals right now that are going to be better than they will in the spring. Look what I just found. I found a fifth wheel for a back of wholesale book. I bought it like almost if I was a dealer. Now, if I was a dealer, I'd probably buy it for $3 or $4 grand less because of the cosmetic issues. But for the most part, I bought this fifth wheel back of wholesale book as a consumer. Guy didn't know I was in the business until I told him I was in the business. So just imagine, 2019 Cougar I got for back of wholesale book, almost for what they would go for at auction. The deals are out there, guys. You just have to be ready, willing, and able. They're out there. They're out in big force. Now, those of you waiting till spring, there's several reasons not to buy, guys. First of all, if your credit's not the best and you're working on it, work on it. There's no rush. Your interest rates aren't going to get affected. If you got a 620 FICO score, you're going to be somewhere around 17.95 today. and you're going to be around 17.95 in the spring. Doesn't affect you much. If your debt to income ratio is way off because your bills are really high because you need to pay off some stuff, trust me, you need to do that. You have to understand, that's why I keep my wife's credit card balances almost to nothing, to keep her debt to income ratio proper, so in an emergency we can get any kind of loan we need. Credit utilization. If your credit card debt's over 50%, maybe it's not the time to buy an RV, because you're probably gonna have a tough time getting a loan. If your bankruptcy is just about to drop off next year, there's another reason not to buy and to wait. This is referring to the people that have already ready. They've been shopping for 6 months. They have narrowed it down, and all of a sudden, oh no, we gotta wait because we gotta make sure the Democrats stay in power, or we gotta make sure there's a red wave that comes, or we gotta wait till gas prices go down. Guys, gas prices are not going down anytime soon. Gas prices around the world are not going to go down to what they were in 2020. If you go look back in history, and this is a history lesson for those that didn't go through it or don't remember going through it, but in 2008, the national gas price average was $4.36 a gallon in July. You can Google that. At the end of the Bush term into the beginnings of the Obama term, gas prices were insane. And yet, I remember as a teenager, well, no, I wasn't a teenager. I remember as a man in his mid to late 20s. I keep forgetting that I'm this old. Let's see, I was 24. And I remember seeing motorhomes all over the place. Travel trailers going up and down Highway 395 in California, going to Bishop, June Lake, and Mammoth. It didn't stop anybody. It stopped it at first, like it is right now. It was like, holy crap, everybody's losing their home. Subprime lending is out of control. It brought it to a halt for a while because manufacturers going out of business. We had to let the dust settle. But I remember when I first got in this business, there was a point in time where I got to the point where I told customers, these discounts aren't going to last forever. Eventually, the owner's going to have to make money to stay in business. At the time at Giant RV, it was about Bob owned the majority of the inventory in cash. So the fire sale we had, and it was a fire sale, was to free up cash. Mike Thompson's, same thing. But Frank had a different attitude. Frank's attitude was, let's just stick a fire hose down everybody's throat and turn it on. So you have to look at it from the perspective of that the fire sale isn't gonna last. And it didn't. It lasted about 8 months when I first got in this business. After 8 months, prices went right back up. Now they were in profitable range. I remember selling Fleetwood diesel pushers, Discoveries, for $25,000, $35,000 back of what we actually owned it for. I remember taking stupid losses on Damon motorhomes, and they would pay us a flat to sell them. I remember Weekend Warrior. It was like, whatever we can get, we're going to take. I remember one we owned for like 32 grand. This small little trailer. We owned it for like 32 grand. We sold it for 21.9. It was time to move on.